How is it going, everyone? It's Cable Limited here, and today I have given myself the task of reviewing Star Wars The Acolyte. I want to give everything a fair shake, everything a fair chance. I want to try to be as non-biased, at least non-negatively biased towards all Star Wars series I'm going into. I wanted to give this a fair chance, and I do believe I gave this a fair chance. I've watched every episode, I've looked at some interviews even, and I have some opinions on this, but I'm going to do this a little bit differently. We're going to start off with the pros in this video, and then we're going to go to the cons, and we'll talk about what could be fixed or how to fix the issues with the Acolyte. And there's quite a few issues, but there is some good things that came out of this series, in my personal opinion. First things first, the new cast of characters. If you're going to make more Star Wars, I would prefer it be a new cast of characters at this point. So I appreciate the fact that they did make a new cast of characters. You know, there's no point keep hammering on to the same characters that we see over and over and over again, and risking the chance of hurting one of those characters' backstory, or hurting their lore, or just hurting the building of that character. So I'm always for new characters. Make new characters, make new areas, make new settings, make new stories. I am all for that. So 100% am fine with that. I actually like some of the Jedis at first. They changed that later on, but at first I really do like Master Soul. I like Jackie. I like Osha. I like these characters at first. Things happen later on that make me not care so much, but at the beginning I actually really like these characters and I was rooting for them. The casting, I was fine with the casting. I didn't really see any issues with that. I know a lot of people had some complaints about that, but really I didn't have any issues with the casting and the acting and all that stuff. For the most part, the acting's pretty good, other than mainly one area, and again, they weren't given much to work with either, so I can't really blame them for that. But the acting I didn't really have an issue with. The set design was actually pretty good. I really thought they did a great job of just making this look like Star Wars. It definitely looks like Star Wars. You know, may not always feel like Star Wars, but it always looks like Star Wars. They definitely got the settings down pat. I like that. I think they did a great job with that. So that stuff is great. The actual lightsaber fights, I think are actually pretty good. This is probably some of the best lightsaber fights that Disney has been able to do so far. You know, these are pretty close to prequel level. They're not perfect. They're not the best, but they're still pretty darn good. You know, I wouldn't say that any of these are my favorite now, but still, the fact that they were able to have some really nice lightsaber fights was actually really entertaining. It's good to see that. You know, I really liked some of the moves that they were doing. There's one guy named Master Torben, and you get a flashback when he's Padawan, and you can kind of see him using his lightsaber, and I think that the way that he was like spinning, hit the lightsaber behind his back and stuff, it reminded me a lot of Anakin Skywalker. So I actually was a pretty big fan of that. I liked that quite a bit. Lots of new aliens in this. I actually liked a lot of the alien designs, and some of the aliens that we've already seen in the past too. I actually liked their designs of them as well. We see some like new variations of them, and I thought that they looked cool. Like Jackie is just a variation of a character that we've already seen before, but still looks really cool. I think the design is awesome. Also, great new lightsabers. Not new lightsabers, but we're getting to see more of the lightsaber colors. I'm all for as many lightsaber colors as possible. Keep them coming. You know, this is something that I actually strongly disagreed with George Lucas with. George Lucas really wanted to keep things pretty vanilla with the blue, green, and red lightsabers. I say forget that. Add all the colors. Like, give me silver lightsabers. Give me white lightsabers. Give me black lightsabers. Give me yellow lightsabers. Give me pink lightsabers. Give me purple. Obviously, we got purple eventually anyway, but Mace was the only one who had it. Give me orange lightsabers. Give me Viridian. Give me all these awesome colors of sabers. I think it's awesome. Different shades of sabers. I'm all for it. So give me more of that. That's always awesome. And speaking of lightsaber colors, you also saw saber bleeding in this, which was really cool. You get to see a lightsaber be, the crystal of it be bled. A character turns to the dark side. And by the way, there's going to be spoilers in this. So right now, spoilers. I'm going to give some stuff away. So we get to see a lightsaber color actually bleed from blue to red. When we get a turn in the later story with, and I'm going to say the character, so again, spoiler, Osha, when we see Osha go from light side to dark side, and we see that lightsaber get corrupted, and we see the crystal go from blue to red, and then she ignites the blade, and the blue blade slowly turns red from the bottom up. I just love that scene. That was awesome. Really liked that, and I had no issue with that. Seeing a live-action Cellcath was also really cool. Really like seeing a live-action Cellcath as someone who's a fan of the Knights of the Old Republic games, especially the first one, and also Star Wars The Old Republic. I like that game also. So being able to see a live-action Cellcath for the first time ever, I was pretty excited over that. I did like that. And probably the last really good thing about it, I will say, is the fate of the witches. I'm glad that all the witches died. I was not a fan of the witches, and the way that they died was pretty funny. I liked it when they all were like trying to possess the Wookiee, and then when the possession gets broken in a flashback, there's like this Wookiee Jedi, and they're trying to possess him to fight the other Jedi in this flashback, and when the possession gets broken, they all just like fall over dead, and it looks kind of silly, but I do like the way that they died, mainly just so I didn't have to see them anymore. But let's go ahead and get to the cons now, shall we? So I wanted to put the pros out there first. That way, you know, I don't want people to think that I'm hating on this for no reason. There's definitely bad things in this, and we're about to get into all the bad things, but there is still some good to come out of it as well. So that's why I wanted to bring out the pros. It's not all negative. It's just there's a lot of issues with the series that could be fixed in the future. Not all of them. Not all of the issues can be fixed. There's some of that damage that's already been done, but some issues can be fixed. The biggest issue I have is that eventually in the storyline, there ends up being no good guys. There's nobody to root for. And when you have no one to root for, you kind of lose investment. So I had no one to really root for because the witches in the show that spawned the two twins, the two twins being Osha and May, they're bad guys. They're Darksiders. They're evil. They're not good people. They're very aggressive towards the Jedi. You know, and the Jedi are basically just trying to make sure that the kids are safe, and these witches are indoctrinating these kids, so you can't really obviously root for the witches. They're evil. And then you have the Jedi, and while the Jedi seem good at first, well, then you find out that they're actually lying about what happened to the witches. You find out that they killed the witches, which I have no problem with, really. But the way that they killed the witches was... that wasn't really the problem. The problem is that they went and then they started lying about how they killed the witches. They started saying that one of the twins killed the witches instead with a runaway fire. And while one of the twins, May, the evil Sith assassin in this series, did try to start a fire, she actually wasn't the cause of the deaths. It was the Jedi, and then the Jedi just lied to protect their own tail. They're not even lying to protect really I feel like they're not lying for the good of the galaxy. Like, usually when you get a story about Jedi lying, like in Knights of the Old Republic 2, for example, it's usually because there's more at stake than just their own hides. This felt like it was just them trying to protect their own hides, and I really did not like that. That did not feel like the Jedi, so I was not a big fan of that. Like I said, you do have Osha and May. Those are like the two main characters in this. Obviously, this takes place years before the first movie. It's a prequel to all of the Star Wars stuff that we've seen so far, and we get the two main characters, May and Osha, and this whole story is about them being born from these witches, and the witches basically getting killed, and their kind of self-discovery of what they are, whether they're going to be Jedi, whether they're going to be a witch, whether they're going to be a Sith or a dark Jedi, I guess. It's all about that, and that's kind of the whole character, conflict that's going on in this. And it does some interesting things that later on, but one thing that I definitely had a problem with was flip-flopping May. May flip-flopped so much throughout this entire series. She starts off as a bad guy. She hates what the Jedi did. She actually saw what the Jedi did to the witches, and she was obviously the daughter of the witches, so she's mad about it, and she is trying to kill the Jedi. The dialogue for whenever she meets a Jedi is really bad, by the way, and again, I don't think that's the fault of the actor. That's just bad writing and bad directing. But she wants to kill Jedi. But then, another episode later, she realizes, oh, you know what? I don't want to kill the Jedi. I want to turn myself in. She goes from wanting to turn herself in to almost killing another Jedi. Then she said she says she loves her sister, but then she tries to set her sister on fire in a flashback. But then she tries to save her sister right after she does it. So there's just so much back and forth with this character that it becomes annoying. So this character flip-flops way too much. And it doesn't make sense how she's constantly like, oh, I love my sister, now I want to kill my sister. It goes back and forth way too much, and I really hated that. And that's not the only bad story and directing in this. The whole idea with the witches in general is just really bad. The witches are really poorly written in general. And, like, when you hear their witches chant and stuff like that, it's just pure, like, I hate to say, use the word cringe. I feel like it is overdone, but my goodness, it is cringe. It is really bad when they're doing the power of many chant. It is so bad. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen in Star Wars. Not a fan of that at all. That was rough to try to get through. Just the whole dialogue with any of the witches was really hard to get through, if I'm being honest. And the fact that they tried to make it so Anakin wasn't special by being, the born from a mother with no father now, that is also a really questionable decision to me, because the whole point of Anakin Skywalker, and one of the things that made him so interesting, and the fact that he's the chosen one of the indicators that he's the chosen one, is that he was born to a mother and has no father. There was never a father in the picture. He was born from the Force. The Force was created him, whether it was manipulated or whether it was the Force itself. Either way, the Force was manipulated to create Anakin. So the fact that these witches just randomly off out, somewhere else, were able to also manipulate the Force and create twins just does not jive with me. It does not make sense. Because we're talking about, when it comes to Anakin, the assumption is that it was either Palpatine or Plagueis that created him. And really, it comes down to Palpatine, in my opinion. That's the only one that... Or, not, I'm sorry. It only comes down to Plagueis. Plagueis is the only one, in my opinion, that makes sense for the creation of Anakin. Because Palpatine couldn't create life. He could have cloned. You see that in the sequel trilogy, that he can have clones and stuff like that. But he never creates life using the Force, interestingly enough. But he does say in Episode 3 that Plagueis could create life. So that leads me to believe that Plagueis was the one who created Anakin Skywalker. So it makes no sense that someone as powerful as Plagueis created Anakin, and then these just random witches off in this hillbilly, area were able to do it also. It just makes no sense, because you're telling me Palpatine couldn't do what Plagueis did, but these witches could? Nah, I don't buy it. That one was a rough one for me. I definitely don't agree with that. They can fix that. They can fix that if they ever decide to do a second season or anything like that. They can fix that by basically just, keep it so the witches think that they did create them. The witches can think that they created them. That's fine. But have it be a test run. Have it be a trial run for Plagueis. This is how Plagueis figured out he could create life, by using these twins and creating these twins. Have that be the actual solution to the story. Have that be the actual, the actual creation of these twins. It wasn't the witches that did it. The witches just claimed to do it because they didn't know Darth Plagueis was actually behind it. That's how you course correct, and you fix this story. So that's how you do that. If you want to fix a major issue with this story, Darth Plagueis created the twins, and I think that if you are going to have any more of the Acolyte, that is something that needs to happen. And I do think that not everyone would forgive you afterwards, but I do think there would be a decent amount of people that would be like, okay, you know what, I'll take it. I accept this, solution. I accept this resolution. I think that this works, So maybe do something like that, and I think you could actually bring the Acolyte back, believe it or not. I think you could. I really do. Even though the Jedi are still really rough, they kind of ruined the Jedi with making the Jedi lie so much to protect their own hides instead of protect the galaxy. Even though they lied about that and they kind of messed up the Jedi, I still feel like you can redeem that aspect of it too if you basically have Yoda realize what they did and exile the current Jedi that are in the story. If you did that, I think that you would have a chance of redeeming the story, but there has to be some sort of punishment for the Jedi that lied, because they lie all throughout the end of the story. They lie throughout the entire story, but really towards the end, once everything starts unraveling, and you think that there's going to be some sort of good conclusion, one of the characters is still lying about everything, and it just messes up everything, and it's a mess. I don't like it at all. So that would be a great way to fix it. Just have those Jedi be exiled. There's no reason to keep them around anymore anyway. They don't really seem like that major of characters. It just kind of seems like they're contained to this show and maybe like some comics or something like that, but I don't really know who cares about the comics at this point. But still, either way, that's how you fix those issues. The other issue that I did have was the overpowered characters in this. Obviously, the witch is overpowered. If she can create life, she's overpowered right from the get-go, but she's also able to possess a Jedi Padawan's mind like it's nothing. Again, I don't buy that. That's a little bit too powerful, in my opinion. If you want to have her possess a random person's mind or something like that, or a random scout, maybe like there's just someone with the Jedi, sure, go ahead. But Jedi Padawan, we're stretching it a little bit, especially because this Jedi Padawan later becomes a Jedi Master, and he still has issues with this. Like, how did he even become a Jedi Master if he has all these like pent up issues and all these emotions still? Like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. So, Master Torben, I feel bad for that character because that character could have been really well done, and the way that they have Master Torben die, he self-deletes himself. It makes no sense for a Jedi to do that. It just doesn't. Like, they're supposed to be masters of their emotions, and he's a Jedi Master. If you do it while he's a Padawan, maybe. But we're talking about a Jedi Master at this point, so I don't buy it. We also have an overpowered Sith with Khmer. Khmer is... The thing about Khmer is I actually kind of like Khmer at first. Not at first. I don't want to say at first. I hated Khmer at first because they just were doing the whole stereotype that you see in Star Wars where a bumbling fool is actually secretly a Dark Lord of the Sith. They were doing that with Khmer, but it was obvious that he was the Sith Lord. It was not hard to guess at all that he was actually the Sith Lord, so I wasn't a big fan of that, and I wasn't a big fan of him acting like a bumbling idiot. But when you actually hear Khmer talk once he's revealed to be a Dark Jedi, that was actually really interesting, and I actually liked Khmer. The only problem with him was that he was way overpowered. He kills like 7 Jedi like it's nothing in a battle. I'm sorry, but you're talking about one of the highest kill counts of any character in Star Wars. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. That's ridiculous. He's a Dark Jedi. He's not a Sith Lord. He should not be able to take out Jedi that easily. It just, again, it's another way that kind of... It's like another thing that tries to diminish the Jedi Order, and I don't really understand why they're trying to do that. If you're going to have a story about corrupt Jedi, fine, but it needs to be done in a way where it still makes sense, where, it's not just Jedi are lying to protect themselves, and also they're super weak when they finally run into a Dark Jedi. Like, no, I'm sorry. Especially because this is, again, it's not a Sith Lord. It's just a Dark Jedi. It's just a fallen Jedi, so it makes no sense. And his whole obsession with Padawan and everything, and wanting a Acolyte, he wants to take someone under his wing. I do think that's kind of interesting, so I didn't mind that too much. Like I said, I think the acting for Khmer was really good, and everything after he reveals who he is really good. It's just he's way too overpowered for what he is. And then they reveal that he killed all the Jedi in the fight, blindfolded, basically. His helmet, which can block lightsabers, which already not a huge fan of. It can literally shut off lightsabers. Not a huge fan of that. Again, I believe this was already established in lore that this type of armor existed, but I still don't like it. Just because something is already established in lore doesn't mean I like it. I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now, basically. Another thing that was already established was the whip, the laser whip. I hate the lightsaber whips. I think they're stupid, but they're in this too. I don't like them in this, and I didn't like them when they were in the Clone Wars. I don't think they were exactly lightsaber whips, but they were like laser whips in the Clone Wars, and I didn't like them then, and I don't like them now. But yeah, they basically say that his mask is basically a blindfold. It blinds him from everything around him. It's a sensory deprivation mask. So he puts it on, he can't hear, he can't see. He has none of his senses, only the Force, which sounds cool, but I have a hard time believing that he killed 7 Jedi while wearing a sensory deprivation mask. Again, I just don't agree with that. He kills all those Jedi, and then he gets carried off by a bunch of, evil birds. So he can kill Jedi, but he can't defeat the birds. So, again, I just don't get that. There's also some characters that just go nowhere. I talked about a Wookiee Jedi earlier. He only does stuff in the flashback. He actually dies before you see him do anything in the actual, storyline, though. So that kind of sucked, too. And the only other thing to talk about is that there was a hinted relationship between Jeki and Osha, and then they just dropped it. Jeki dies before there's any sort of, really any development there, and they could have actually had an interesting story there with the whole, Jedi aren't supposed to give into emotions, they're not supposed to have passion, and we'd never really see a Jedi who's in love actually try to maintain their love in the Jedi Order and not just completely fall to the dark side. And I think that would have actually been an interesting avenue to explore. And they had Osha, they had the main character Osha, and they could have had this relationship with Jeki, and they just completely they blow over it. And to me, this is one of the best chances you have to tell an interesting story about, the Jedi's emotions and how, the Jedi kind of they deprive people of their just natural emotions, and you just pass it up. This would have worked perfect for this series, but I don't get it. I don't get it. They decided not to go that way. They just killed Jeki instead, and that was a huge mistake in my opinion. So yeah, overall, I can't recommend the Acolyte to anyone who's a fan of Star Wars. I just can't. It's not great. You know, it's not good. In fact, I would actually say it's pretty bad. If they were able to fix some of the issues that they created in another season, maybe I could recommend the first season to people, but they would have to create another season and actually fix everything that they messed up and all the missteps. And they would have to hire a new producer and new writers, because the writing and they need to hire a new director. The writing and directing is so bad in this. It is so bad. And it's not the actors' fault. I think a lot of the actors did a great job with what they were given. The problem is that they weren't given much. So I think that there is a way to redeem this series, but it has to have another season for it to be able to be redeemed, and I don't see that happening at this point. And if this is all that we're left with, this one unfinished season, then the only other answer is to make it non-canon. So that kind of sucks, because now we just have a bunch of Star Wars episodes that could basically become non-canon. So it's a really tough situation with the Acolyte. I do think that there's still ways they can fix the issues. I think that they can actually fix even the overpowered characters. For example, the Stranger. I think if you had the Stranger go up to, and like Yoda, we've never seen Yoda kill a Sith on screen. Have Yoda kill the Stranger in like a split second, like it's nothing. Show how powerful Yoda is compared to everyone else, because Yoda couldn't defeat Palpatine. So if Yoda defeats the Stranger within just a few seconds of a fight, then that will make sense, and it will show how real Sith are way more powerful than just some random fallen Jedi. So there's ways to even fix that. So if they make a second season, I hope that they do fix some of these issues that they've created. If not, I think that this is just better left alone and forgotten. It's not good. It messes with a lot of the story. Messes with a lot of story points that it shouldn't. I know a lot of people were mad about Coyote-Mundi being in this as well. I didn't really care too much. It wasn't like he was a major character or anything, but they definitely messed with some stuff that they shouldn't. And I think that they should definitely either fix it or just not count it. That's my personal opinion on it. I can't recommend that anyone go watch The Acolyte. If you are interested in the lightsaber fights, maybe look those up, but that'd be about it. The lightsaber fights are fun, but the actual storytelling and writing is just way too bad, way too messy. Doesn't do the Jedi any justice, doesn't do Star Wars any justice, doesn't do characters like Anakin any justice. It hurts the stuff that is already there. Even though they created new characters, and they could have stuck to the new characters, they decided to start doing things that would mess with already established characters. And that's the one thing you don't do. Create new characters, create new stories, establish things for these specific characters, but don't do things that are that will completely destroy already existing characters. It's really not that hard, So that's where I'm going to leave this video. I don't want to say... All I can say is that it's just not good. It's not good. I was not a fan of it, but I do think that they can redeem it, and I hope that they do redeem it. I kind of want a Season 2 just so they can fix the issues. That's the truth. I actually want a Season 2 just so they can fix the issues. Let me know what you guys think about The Acolyte in the comments down below. Did you like the series? Was there any part of the series that you thought was redeemable? Just let me know down in the comments below. I don't like being negative about these things. I didn't want to be negative about The Acolyte. I was hoping it would be good, but it just struggles. It struggles throughout the entire thing, and it just you have no one to root for, and it's just a really just bad story to go along with it. Even if you give me no one to root for, at least create an interesting story that doesn't mess with the pre-existing canon, but you couldn't even do that. So I'm going to leave it there. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit the like button, subscribe button down below. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.